God forbid you have the optional option to play a woman in a game, let alone the right to be hideous. Or Gamergate 2, the new Fable. The gamers are doing this again. Ruining Fable? Is it nothing like the original 3? Hi, my name is Ray, but you can call me the Moon Monkey, Ray, Monkey, or whatever you want. This video explores how Fable's history of hideousness, queerness, and free will is being mischaracterized in favor of a hypersensitive fear of an imaginary takeover of games by social justice themes. Created by Lionhead Studios, Fable's first mainline release in 2004, originally codenamed Project Ego, revolutionized gaming with mechanics and depth that RPGs had yet to explore, and that to this day, studios like Obsidian and Bethesda still neglect, from real estate and economic systems to marriage and relationships, and importantly, one of Fable's genre-defining features, a morality system that transforms your character physically, creating a vast system of concrete consequences for everything eaten, drunk, or swung at. This came along with typical RPG mechanics like a categorized experience and level up, plus a little cross-dressing and gay marriage, and an open world full of quests. Notoriously, this game released with many foretold features axed, as Peter Molyneux, Lionhead studio head at the time, hyped up big features that could not possibly come to fruition in 2004. Among Molyneux's promises was something called a reactive world simulation, the ambitious first attempt to make not only NPCs but the entire world of the game react to your behavior and choices. In an article by IGN, the promises made by Lionhead were described like this: kids cut their hair like you and even get tattoos to match your own. It goes on to say, let's say you cut a kid. That cut will become a scar, and if you return to that town 20 years later, that kid will have that same scar. Or maybe you're more into plant mutilation. Carve your name into a tree and it will stay there through the years. The poster child for Molyneux's and Lionhead's lies about what was then called Project Ego is the acorn. The supposed promise that you could plant an acorn in early childhood and watch it grow to a full-size oak tree over the course of the game. Now, of course, I can't find any evidence Molyneux actually suggested this feature was real, other than the fact that he seemed to apologize for it in October of 04. More importantly, for this video, however, a female playable character was initially in the works. Yes, in 2004. In an interview with Fun Xbox, Dean Carter, co-creator of Fable, in response to a question about female playable characters, said, "We've done preliminary work on the female character, but we don't know how well she'll fit into the game." Ultimately, she was scrapped. Much anticipated features promised of the original Fable were sacrificed for release. Thus begins the 4-year stretch of Fable's first arc, where we are locked into a male player character, and arguably not a very good-looking one either. Fable 2, released in 2008, really brought the Fable franchise into public view. Not just because of Peter Molyneux's famous lies this time, but now for its RPG potential, sitting at number 30 game overall in 2008. Fable 2 both expanded on tradition and added several new features, including a dynamic economy system, where each town's economy improves or wanes as you spend gold, finish quests, and make choices. More notably for this video, however, was the introduction of the option to play a female protagonist. Thanks to the female playable character, Fable 2 introduced a lot more possibilities for same-sex marriages. In Fable 1, there was only one gay man per region, but gay marriage did exist. With Fable 2 and its DLC, the game now included lesbian, gay, bisexual, straight, and transvestite appreciating identities. Not only this, but this 2008 mainline game offered the player the option to not only cross-dress, as female players could have a beard or a mustache, and male player characters could wear women's clothes and wear makeup. But also, Fable 2 offered the player a 1 million gold one-time opportunity to change their sex entirely with the potion of transmogrification near the end of the game. Fable 2, in comparison to the first, was a more well-rounded experience that was less rough around the edges, and really fleshed out systems like expressions, landlording, real estate, and relationships. And arguably, it was able to fulfill a few of the promises Fable 1 had made and not delivered on in its pre-release hype. Now, before I get to the criticism of the new Fable's pre-release materials, I argue that the Fable franchise may already have been lost, and this happened in 2010. With the release of Fable 3, along with the introduction of things like adoption and single parenting, came the tragic loss of the expression system as we knew it, and a simplification of the physical changes your character undergoes in response to moral choices. Fable 3 offered the most conventionally attractive player character options in the franchise, still free to make him or her fat and evil. Arguably, Fable 3 softened a lot of the detailed changes that you could expect to see by eating crunchy chicks, killing villagers, or becoming a widow by choice. Instead of the dramatic changes to your face and body from Fable 1 and 2, Fable 3 kept your protagonist relatively beautiful, gaining only subtle wings, horns, or a halo that appear only during power attacks and quests. Fable 3 keeps you relatively pretty, which means not much changes or evolves about your character. You don't age anymore like in Fable 1 and 2, and your complexion barely changes besides taking on a gray cast. And I'm not going to blame it on Fable 3's choice to not make your character get too ugly, because what also happens in the course of this game's release is a simplification of the choices you could make. The choices you could make were now far more black and white, good or bad. Meaning you got to escape most of the physical consequences of your evil deeds. In this one, you could be a super bangin' evil dictator. Your complexion no longer gets green and crackly like a lizard the eviler you get. You don't have a static set of horns that everyone has to confront you wearing. You don't get a static halo to tell every villager how good of a guy you are. It's just when you swing really hard or do a really big emote, your character looked pretty much like everyone else's character except for skinny or fat. Your character stays pretty much the same throughout the course of the game. Despite the amount of time that goes by and the harrowing events you've lived, you don't age or change much at all. And therefore, there wasn't a lot of intrigue. I mean, to me, the ugliness is half the charm. Also, pointing out that this new player character from the trailer is an entirely normal-looking, if not, dare I say, cute woman is necessary, I fear. But since people are stupid, here. Taking a screenshot in the middle of a character making a goofy face does not make a character ugly all around. Nor should any of these characters be adhering to Western 21st century beauty standards. And of course, she's not a one-to-one of British actress Lily Nichol, but a fableized, hyper-Britishified version. The teeth! Come on, people! This is peak character design. In all her cute crassness and ugliness, this is clearly an early game medieval nobody running around Bowerstone trying to be a hero. Fable just wouldn't be what it is as a franchise without some of that ugliness. Without the interesting, unique character models with ugly features and sometimes fat, extreme proportions, or just having farcical personalities. I don't know about you, but it's these character models that I find the most endearing, adorable, and I find myself marrying and becoming friends with these NPCs over and over again throughout the years. In childhood, I was always naming these cute little freaks and the little children we would have together after my childhood crush. And the names my 8-year-old self thought I'd name my baby. Another piece of this that I just find hilarious is that first it was, oh, they took the model and made her ugly, and then a self-insert of a random level designer who just so happens to be trans, so they could target her. And if you genuinely think that these two people look alike, please see the optometrist. I'm serious, I'm concerned for you. And this one is hilarious to me because you know nothing about game development if you think a mocap actor or a random developer who, quote, shepherds cubes into levels has the power to just make a Mary Sue for themselves. It's not their OC, it's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's a game made by a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate and their team of dozens, if not hundreds. Secondly, there are game characters that are one-to-one models of their actor, and Richard Ioade in this very trailer is a great example. And there are characters who are inspired, but clearly not one-to-ones of the actors used to model them. To add to the joke, these people genuinely reuse the same 3 low-res, mid-animation screenshots, 1, 2, 3. Just to prove this stupid point. And using the exact same shitty screenshots from like 4 total minutes of trailer to express that you think this character is ugly, That is so bad faith when you can watch this character move. The character we see in screenshots, she's low fidelity and without detail, and her facial expressions are awkward as fuck. When you watch the trailers and see the characters in the animated sequences, she's fluid and expressive.
Wanker.
And her features are more feminine and even cherubic. Maybe even like the baby face we start as in Fable 2? I argue the sudden cultural upset with queer and trans themes, or even just what they think seems queer, is simply a reflection of the culture's newfound fear of something that's always been seen as a given in our culture. A repressed background reality that, no matter how vast, the normative population never had to confront head on. People who otherwise never had to grapple with queer reality were now incensed that it was in the mainstream. So upset with outward queer representation, they had to believe that the queers in the game industry were directly and literally representing themselves. And here is the delusion of Gamergate: the rejection of the truth of the audience. Either too self-absorbed to acknowledge that half of gamers are women, or too deluded to realize there are plenty of queer and trans players of games worldwide, not to mention most of their developers, or entirely ignorant of Fable's long history of queerness and diversity from gender to size to race, with some pretty badass POC and fat characters, and disgusting, ugly, and funny choices the player can make, which only epitomizes Fable's dedication to the player's control and crafting of the character and its possibilities. It's just the whinging of people who aren't used to not being catered to directly, and scared that as adults we need to play and interact in the world of our games to construct a connection to them. Media is a little more complicated than, that guy should either look like me or somebody I would smash. Gamergate and the culture war, of course, forget a huge portion of American history where trans people were lauded and celebrated as the medical miracles they represented. But in the Fable universe, this queerness has always been an inborn and inherent part of our world. There are, of course, internet culture warriors who genuinely believe that female gamers at large don't like attractive female main characters, as if us ugly women feel threatened and intimidated by the appearance of super not uncanny, beautiful anime girls in our medieval and fantasy games. And I personally am tired of these weird, extremely 2024 pornstar hot-looking characters in games about medieval shit. Please. The real problem is, there's a real thing in TV, movies, and games called iPhone face. iPhone face or smartphone face is just when someone's face is so perfect and attractive that it's a dead giveaway they're from a very modern era. Whether that's overly large lips, or a fillered, enhanced face, or just following the beauty standards of the modern era. And Fable, at its core, is a medieval farce about how hilarious and hideous old-timey imaginary Britain was. I've also already seen way too many normal SpongeBob-ass people in just the Fable trailer materials we've seen so far. Fable is weird. Give me some weird. At the end of the day, period pieces and inspired fantasy should have period characters in them. This is the problem I have with a lot of hot character redesign and overhaul mods for games like Skyrim and Fallout, and those obnoxious and uncanny incel edits of characters fixed from the way they were designed. Just sending them all through the Rock Crusher iPhone face machine. Immersion is absolutely destroyed in order to make these characters smoking hot. And despite all the criticism, I actually find the new girl used in the trailer to be more interesting than Fable 3's constantly beautiful protagonist, and cuter and more relatable than Fable 2's. This girl is straight up cute. She's got a freckly face and a range of facial expressions and animation. Very sensitive men take a screen cap of a frame mid-animation at funny angles and say that's the future of gaming. Gooners being mad again. And at the end of the day, 2025's Fable reboot still remains among my most anticipated games of this generation. I hope you enjoyed my little exploration of Fable's long history of hideousness. This video ignores the broader issue of how the fear of overqueering and forced diversity is just gamers' misplaced frustrations on the clean-washed, focus-tested pandering of the 4 or 5 mega conglomerates who make and sell the media we consume. It was just particularly close to my interests as it relates to Fable, as how ugliness, crassness, and gender diversity are long-standing markers of the Fable franchise. and actually represent the real and gritty hyper-British farce not made for marketing campaigns and focus groups that we see in games now. If you'd like more of a deep dive into the forced diversity panic, let me know in the comments, because I've got a lot to say. How do you feel about Fable's new main character? Are we in store for a second ugly main character? Will this new one carry over the legacy of Fable 2? Raunchy, ugly, and exaggerated? Or will it sacrifice interesting for pretty, like Fable 3? Thank you for watching my little autistic special interest video. If you feel like it, you can follow me on Twitch at the Moon Monkey with underscores, or on Twitter or Blue Sky for more rantings and ravings quite like this one. Thank you so much for watching. I have been the Moon Monkey. I hope to see you next time. And if you made it this far, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. Drop a little monkey emoji in the comments if you made it to the end. And make sure to like if you liked this and subscribe for whatever silly little ravings I come up with next.